So in this demo, we'll be going over how to implement OpenHTF, which is Open Hardware Taste Framework. And so we're going to be doing two demonstrations where the main idea is for one of them is to do like a flat test hierarchy, where we are going to print hello EE104. And then the second test is going to follow up with that with sleep for 5 seconds, which is just going to count down from 1 through 5 and just sleep. And then the third test will then be where it will just open a browser, and we'll be going through which browser that we should be expecting. And then the other test, well, not the other test, but the other file that we'll be executing for OpenHTF is a nested test. And so that one is going to have two separate groups, and with respect to each group is going to have two tests, right? So the first group is going to have it's going to print out a string hello EE104, and then it's going to sleep for 5 seconds. And then for the second group, it's going to say goodbye EE104, and then it's going to open that website browser. And so this is what we're going to be expecting when we're going to be executing the OpenHTFs. And we'll be using Docker to open up these files to execute. All right. So first we'll be going over the Python code here. So I named it as main one, but this follows under the flat test Docker file. Okay, but in any case, here we're just making sure that we print out what we're going to be seeing on screen. Essentially, hard to represent it here as it's all in blatant text here, but this is what we're going to be. It was going to be shown on the screen, and we're going to be wanting to press a start button. And then from that start button, we can begin essentially just testing. So that's what is being represented in this general layout here. And this is just essentially our test plan that we're stating before, where we'll be waiting for the start testing, which is our trigger to actually start testing to execute the hardware, right? And it'll let us know if we pass or fail. Going on, it'll be waiting for the user input, right? And so we'll then be starting our test for this for this flat test hierarchy, right? So it's just going to be going over the first test. Once we press the start test button, then we're going to start the test with this test one, and then we're going to sleep for 5 seconds, and then after that, we're then going to sleep. Not sleep test. After the sleep test, we're going to then open a website browser. And this is going to be continuously running until we abort. Okay. And so we'll be testing this in a bit, but we're going to be going over the second file, which is the nested test, where we're going to have two different groups, and those two groups are going to have two separate tests, right? So again, this is going to be essentially the same, pretty much the same layout, right? The only difference here too is that they're going to be having two groups, right? And again, we would see here that we have our first group, and this is our second test for our first group, right? So this one's going to be printing hello E104, and then it's going to be sleeping here, all right? And then it's going to then follow up with our second group with its first test, and it's just going to be printing out goodbye EE104, and then it's going to follow up with opening up a browser, right? So the way that we executed it through Docker is through this Docker file, which is going to be pretty much the rough setup on how we set up the Docker file for both of these main Python files, right? So we're pretty much using this version of Python, right? And then we of course have our main file here. And then essentially what this block is doing is that we are making sure that we have OpenHTF library, and we want to open up. We want to make sure that we have all the installations to create a server and to do everything like externally from the Python here, right? Because this is all going to be done externally away from our VS Code software here. It's not going to be implemented in here. And so to actually do that, we would then pretty much do a protocol here to run a virtual environment here. And we're pretty much activating that virtual environment so that we can then move externally to the web. All right, and it is essentially be working through, again, our main Python here, our main Python file here. All right, and the same thing is being seen here, but this one is relying on main2, which is our nested test hierarchy. And so the way that we did this is by opening up Docker. So by opening up Docker, we would see here that I had once making sure that I had my files in my Docker file, right? All I had to really do was pretty much create a directory from Docker. And essentially all that was done is that I essentially just pushed I pushed the file into the directory for Docker. So in continuing, and so that we can just test our setup here, let's try to run main1, right? And by running main1, it requires us to enter essentially our IP address. I'm not going to be going through that part because that is sensitive information, so I'll be skipping over that. But essentially, I just type into my terminal IP config in my VS Code, and I put it into here, and I put display. I'll essentially put display here, and then I'll be able to run, and then I'll be able to run my file. So we got our file to run here, right? And so from here, we're able to actually start testing here. So I'm going to press start testing here for our first test here, our flat test hierarchy. I did that, and I pressed OK. It is now counting. We've already passed our first test here, and everything happens also quickly here. Yeah, everything happens also quickly here. But let's go back to here. So what we noticed here is that we had started our testing here, and it was a pass, right? And so then it would print out hello EE104, right? And then it waited 5 seconds, and that passed as well. And then we would open up our browser, and then the browser was pretty much the SJSU instructor website that it connects to Canvas, and that's why that just opened up abruptly, essentially. Of course, you can open up any other website, but that's the website that I chose. And so that's what happened in that test there. And then we would be able to do the same process and using Docker to open up our main2 file. And so here, after aborting our flat test hierarchy, we're then gonna do our nested nested test hierarchy here, right? So again, what we expected to happen is that it's going to go through this first group. It's going to say hello EE104, and then we're going to sleep, and then we're going to move on to the second group with our first test and say goodbye EE104, and then we're going to abruptly open up a browser, which is going to be the SJSU instructor Canvas website, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to do start test. We're going to click OK. It's going to already do this quickly. Hello EE104. It's counting down. It's going to sleep, and then it's and then it's going to say goodbye EE104, which we will see here. And then it right after said it right after said we pretty much launched to the website, right, that we wanted to open, right? And if we were to open it up, our VS, yeah, if we were to open up our our source file here, we would be able to see that we had an outcome pass, right? And this would be observed for our other file, our flat test hierarchy. All right, so we were able to make sure that there was an actual connection with our external hardware test and our VS source file, right? So yeah, so that was the general execution of OpenHTF. Another thing I want to add is I thought I was showing the tests for both the flat test hierarchy and the nested test hierarchy, but unfortunately, the way that the recording is set up, it didn't capture it, unfortunately. So I have these screenshots to show the passing. So again, this is for the flat test, right? So we would be able to see that we passed the first test, and then it did sleep for 5 seconds, which we did observe. We did see the sleep. If we were to look back, we did notice that there was a frank pause before launching the website. All right, we were able to see the countdown, but we weren't able to actually see the previous passings. So that is proof of the passings for the first test for the flat test hierarchy, and then for the nested test hierarchy, this is pretty much the how it looked for it to go from test to test between each individual group here, which showed to be a pass for printing out the string EE104 and then sleeping, and then it then said goodbye EE104, and then it opened a website browser. So that is proof of both tests passing.